Artichoke. There we go. Cloud recording in effect. Perfect. Take it away, MJ. Hit us.
All right. Sounds good. So, guys, just a little background on me. So, I am Mike Johnson. I'm a sales engineer. I'm based out here in Denver, Colorado. So, Tom, you'll run into me when you get out here, but and be out of your parents' basement. I just want that on recording. But
Yes.
yeah. So previous to Zoom, I've been here for about a year now. I'm actually about 2 weeks away from my year stint at Zoom. But previous to that, I was actually at Cisco as a consulting systems engineer, dealing all in collaboration only. So I've 6 years of experience there, 1 year here. So I've been doing it for a while, and I've had some good mentors along the way, which is the only reason I do decently well. But it's one of those things where, so I'll just kind of start out where Jeremiah just was. So there's two different analogies I use. The one you're referring to, I don't know it as well, but the one I actually use more often now, and I think perception-wise might actually work out best for you guys is, first off, everyone knows what SkypeForBusiness is, right?
Yes.
Have you guys used it at all?
Yes.
Yes. Sean?
No, I have not. No.
You have not. Okay. So, just to start out, so it is basically an IM and presence tool, right? So if you don't know the history from it, long time ago, there was Microsoft OCS, which started as their IM and presence tool. From there, it kind of manipulated and, transformed into Link. Since then, Microsoft has obviously bought SkypeForBusiness. They did it mostly for the reason of actually just acquiring the name of SkypeForBusiness because it was such a well-known and synonymous name in the industry that they really just wanted to have that type of name and branding on a product that they had. Beyond the name of SkypeForBusiness, there's no similarities between Skype and SkypeForBusiness. In fact, SkypeForBusiness is actually just what people like to call a reskinned version of Link. All right, which is why a lot of times when you actually even in our admin dashboards, our support dashboards and stuff like that, when you actually enable SkypeForBusiness, really we still call it Link Gateway on our backside, really, and that just goes down to the fact that they're still using all the same protocols and everything from the Link days to today. And I'll get into what those are in a little bit. But basically, just to start out, so we've all used SkypeForBusiness, I'm sure. I'm still looking at Sean over there. At least you've used that, correct?
Yes.
So there are similarities there, right? It is a chat client. You are able to kind of communicate back and forth with each other. The one thing Microsoft does really well with it is integrations with the Outlook or the Office 365 integration. So Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook, all those they have deep integrations in. So they have this one feature that they have. I ran into it with a customer one time where they actually asked, "Are you able to share specific cells within Excel and have the person on the other end edit just those cells and be able to see just those cells?" And I just thought it was the most ridiculous kind of thought. Like at the end of the day, I went back to that guy and I said, listen, 1% of the features or 1% of the users use 1% of the features 1% of the time. If you do the math, no one's using that, right? So when you're actually talking to your end users, really what you found out is this feature that you're really asking for is only supplementing one person's time 1% of that time too. And it's useless, right? You don't want to base your decision making off of that one little feature when no one else across the company is really asking for it. So yes, that's one that I use, JP. 1% of the users use 1% of the feature 1% of the time. And that's what I really get from Microsoft, the top part of it. So then there's other parts, right? It is an IM and presence type tool. So being able to chat back and forth with each other, that came from the OCS days, all right? Microsoft OCS is what it was called. And
what does that stand for, by the way, Mike?
It just rang in my head, so it's kind of funny you asked. Office Communicator Suite or Office Communicator something.
Okay.
Yes. So, and basically it was a tool just for IM and presence, all right? And I've had plenty of conversations with people, IM and presence on Link, SkypeForBusiness, whatever you want to call it. It's amazing, right? But at the end of the way, you're not getting any work done with IM and presence, right? That's just not where your work gets done. And then a lot of people, so especially from your point of view, where you're going to be looking from the outside in, you're going to be calling up someone, you're going to be talking to them, and they're going to be like, well, we just invested in O365. We get Skype for Business through that platform for free. I've been using this analogy every so often, and people have resonated with it. So I'm going to keep doing it until someone says that's stupid. But I like to get the other person talking a little bit, and this has seemed to work for me. So I'll ask you guys, and you participate in this, and we'll see what happens. How many of you guys have Amazon Prime?
Oh, I love this analogy.
All right, most of the room. Do you guys, the guys that have Amazon Prime, do you also have Netflix?
Yes.
Yes. All right, go ahead, get rid of Netflix and just get Amazon Prime, because Amazon Prime has video in it as well. So why do you have both?
Because if I get rid of Netflix, I'm gonna lose Ozark, and that show's
I
kicking.
love Ozark.
It's so good.
Also, 5 of my friends and family members won't have video streaming video streaming if I get rid of Netflix.
Sure. So I use this example a lot, and a lot of times, like when you ask the question, like, so why do you still have Netflix? Like, it's interesting to hear what the people come back with, because it definitely gets off topic, and then you kind of bring it back in. No, all right, let's come back to this. Really, what I just said to you was get rid of Netflix, and Zoom is the Netflix of the industry in what we do, right? Microsoft is this, they are the Amazon Prime of what they're doing. They deliver everything. They deliver an Office suite, and with it, you ended up getting Skype for Business. You didn't get Skype for Business because you wanted it. It just came with the package. Just like Amazon Prime, you get it for like the 2-day free shipping most of the time, right? No one talks about the music they get with it. No one talks about the video they get with it. It's always the 2-day free shipping, right? So you kind of bring it back to that analogy, and I basically just said in your own words, when I said, hey, get rid of Netflix, you got pretty uncomfortable, and you said, no, I'm not getting rid of my Netflix, But at the end of the day, I just proved to you an example why Zoom, your real-time audio and video collaboration is better than Microsoft Skype for Business. Right?
I like that. Yep.
So
Can I back up on something real quick, Mike? So when you say Skype for Business has good integrations with the rest of the Microsoft suite, and you mentioned Word and PowerPoint, things like that. You mentioned a ridiculous feature within Excel to share one cell, and that was a ridiculous one. But have you seen integrations with the rest of the Microsoft suite that are powerful and really good to have?
Nothing specific. A lot of it is like the presence, right? So being able to see whether someone's available, offline, busy in the meeting, stuff like that. So Microsoft and Cisco as well both have rich presence capabilities where we don't. So we will get there. We're on that path, but basically right now, for instance, Skype can actually read your Outlook calendar. And if you're in a meeting, even though you're not using, Skype for the meeting platform or anything like that, it'll still say you're in a meeting or busy, right? We don't do that.
Yeah, that part's cool.
It is. But at the end of the day, you know what I like to say to that? It doesn't matter if you're busy or available. If I'm going to call you, the first thing I'm going to do is send you a ping that says, hey, you available?
Yep.
So what's the point of rich presence if every single time, even when you're listed as busy, do you ping someone and say, hey, are you available to chat?
Yep. Thank you.
That's my thought process on it.
Is that something that we would down the line integrate or offer, or not necessarily?
Yeah, I think it's coming, right? So there's definitely some more features and stuff that we want to work on, and that's one that I do see coming in the near future. Okay. So by the end of the year, I see that being done.
Cool.
But I don't know firsthand. No one on the product management team has told me. I just heard little snippets here and there and just tying the pieces together.
Cool.
But yeah, so that's what people say is presence kind of was killed off by the use of mobile devices and text messaging. I've heard that once before. I kind of like the concepts because really what ended up happening was no matter what your presence is, someone's always checking with you via text before they actually just blind call you. All right. Now it still does happen where people blind call you and everything. I do it all the time to other people just for, fun and whatnot. But it happens. But anyway, so Microsoft, when you think about the Office suite also, one of the other things that you can kind of talk about when you're talking to the person you are talking to is if you look at the Office suite, you get that PowerPoint 360, 365. So PowerPoint, email, Word, SharePoint's in it. So SharePoint's kind of like an online social media. All of these really have the same thing in common. They're non-real-time non-real-time communications. There's near real-time communications with the Skype for Business platform when you do IM, but when you actually look at like the real-time communications, they don't own any of that. They're not good at any of that.
It's all still asynchronous.
You got it. So at this point, you can also say, Microsoft, they really added O360 or Skype for Business in the O365 suite just to check off a box that their customers were asking for. It gets you one step down the road, but it doesn't get you where you want to go, right? It just gives you a little bit of taste of how good the other products are out there.
Yep.
Oh, I kind of like that. You just kind of feed in and say, oh, Microsoft did a good thing for us. But anyway, so in my mind, a lot of times when you're talking to these people, it's like, hey, yeah, I understand why you're using O365. The good news is no one at your company is ever going to get fired by choosing O365, but no one's ever going to be happy either. You're never going to get a promotion over choosing Skype for Business, right? But you pick something like Zoom, it really changes the way that people interact overall. It's starting to hit that real-time communication where we actually succeed, right? Just like Netflix is the best at what they do, Zoom's the best at what we do because it's the only thing we do, right? We're not out there trying to say like, oh yeah, we have email too, or we have a text editor, like that's cool, like check this out, right? It's the only thing we do, so we're always going to be better day in and day out than Microsoft. All right. Yeah. So what else am I missing? So go ahead.
So what about if we get into like a real-time conversation, right? And what are your recommendations? I love the don't call your baby ugly. What does a real-time conversation look like? Okay, yeah. So we're using Skype for Business. We're okay with it. I wouldn't say that it's the greatest thing ever, but it's free.
Right. So suddenly you can also change the conversations too. Like, hey, well, it's doing all right for you. Where is it not doing fine for you? And those are definitely the more interesting conversations because a lot of times people will be willing to talk about that. So things like, they're automatically going to say like, communicating with people outside of our organization is just not great, or we have large meetings. So that's the other thing. Are you guys majors and enterprise only, or?
Yep.
Okay, so you're all going to be able to win on this one.
Yep.
So basically, it's like, yeah, communicating outside of our network or having large events or anything like that, Skype just doesn't get us there. It just leaves us flat on our face. And that's something where we can jump in and be like, oh, well, this is super easy for us.
How many video tiles is Skype able to display?
So here's kind of the interesting thing. I think they can go like 5 or 7 or something like that.
Wow.
And they can do that without using a centralized server to mix it together. Now, the important thing about this is when you use, and this is something to kind of keep in the back of your head, you're probably not going to have a real conversation around this, but it may come up at some point. Because of the way Microsoft does their video mixing, it actually bogs down the actual person's computer, like big time too.
Yeah.
Right. It will just suck it dry of resources. So like the fan will start, it'll kick on, it'll get really hot, it'll kill the battery and all this kind of thing, right? It's because on the actual side of Microsoft on your computer, it's actually trying to mix all that video together itself, and it's not doing a good job.
It does that all natively or all on a hard drive level?
You can say that. I would say a hard drive level.
Yeah.
Doing it on the computer though.
Oh, that's strange.
Yeah.
And so if I have 7 people in a meeting or a large meeting going on and I'm using Skype, it's going to bog down my computer. What about my company network?
Yeah, so that's the other thing, right? So our codec is uniquely designed, right? And you can't use this one so much on Microsoft, but I'll say it to you guys because you use it with anyone else. If you actually take a look at the video market, Uh, 10 years ago, Tamberg came out, or not 10 years, they were like 20 years ago now. They actually came out, they kind of owned the market. They were the ones that brought video to the enterprises, right? So they had these big video endpoints. Then they had a network that they ran over that was a corporate network. And then they led back to a server that was on the corporate network where you can do meetings larger than 2 people at a time, right? So in this, I control the endpoint, I control the network, and I control the server it's on. If you actually fast forward to where we are today, everyone's pushing to the cloud. So what Zoom has done differently than anyone else out there is they're still using that same codec, that same way of actually processing the audio and video as when you're on a fully controlled environment and you control every packet that goes along that network. When you push to the cloud, you suddenly lose all control of that, right? You're literally saying, okay, cloud, whatever the internet has for me, you take and do with it as you please. We're the only ones that went back and said, all right, let's redesign the codec to work on the cloud versus just working on a localized network. So while all these people are complaining, bragging about their 5% packet loss and they can still maintain a video call, we can actually go out there and say we can maintain 45% packet loss and still maintain a video call. 5 to 45 is a significant difference. And if you're looking, that's the big data to back that up. Go on YouTube, look up PEXIP, and look up like their packet loss. Just type those PEXIP packet loss, and they'll actually show you a video that takes it up to 5% packet loss on a network, and they can maintain a video. That's child's play compared to what we do. All right.
Bam.
So what else do we got going on? So yeah, and that's the other thing. So Microsoft can't fully fall into this category because they do use the same codec we do, but they haven't gotten it to the point of where we've gotten it at, which is why ours is so efficient over the cloud, over a wireless network and stuff like that. It's also, again, you can't repeat this one because we're kind of in the same boat. Microsoft doesn't do anything on the network side, right? They don't know what a switch is. They don't know what a router is. They have no idea what your ISP is and stuff like that. So when they get an issue with your network bandwidth, the notification is try increasing your bandwidth, right? And that's it. That's all they give you because that's all they know. They just say, oh, give it more bandwidth, and then the problem's resolved. Versus we will actually work with the network. We actually can understand what's happening on the network. We monitor it. This way, if something were to happen on the network, we can dynamically change with it. All right.
Are we referring to adaptive video layering technology, Mr. Johnsen?
Absolutely, you got it.
Can I take a stab at explaining that and let you critique?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
So one thing that makes Zoom unique, guys, is we're actually the only company in the world. We're the only platform in our space that has been able to successfully execute what we refer to as adaptive video layering technology. And what that is we are sending out multiple streams of a video feed, right? One at the highest resolution, one at the lowest resolution, and 2 in between.
No.
And what that enables us to do, no, let me take a stab at it and then correct me. So one at the highest resolution, one at the lowest resolution, and 2 in between. And what that enables us to do is adapt to varying bandwidth environments. So if I'm in the office and I'm hardwired into my gigabit fiber connection, I'm going to be able to stream the highest quality video known to mankind. But if I'm streaming this video out on my mobile device, I'm in the backseat of a taxi cab on the way to the airport, and I'm streaming my video, because I have my own individual connection to the meeting, I have my own tunnel, right? I might be streaming a lower quality video, or my experience might suffer a little bit, but it's not going to drag down the overall quality of the meeting. You may have noticed with some of those other platforms, when somebody has a sucky connection, the whole meeting suffers, right? And the meeting is terrible. So us sending out multiple streams of a video feed and having everyone have their own individual connection to the meeting enables us to adapt to varying bandwidth environments. It sounds like I screwed up on something.
No worries, you're not too far off actually. So you're doing really well. So I'm just going to kind of show this on screen because I want you guys to kind of follow along with this. So let's see, what color will we go with? Let's go blue. So basically, on the screen right now, I'm going to take the little bar at the bottom off. There it goes. Right now, I'm using a 1080p monitor. What that really means, if you guys don't know, is from this part down to this part, there's 1080 pixels. All right. There's actually 1920 is that the pixels on this, the vertical axis here. So the horizontal actually has 1080, right? So what I like to ask the customers is, okay, if you look at my screen right now, you guys are all on the evenly spaced screen, right? So if I say from here to here, how many pixels is that? You guys don't have to know the answer to this. It's just less than 1080, right?
Yeah.
Less than 10, yeah, it's even less than 600, right? Because let's say, oh, can I move this? That would be sick if I could move that. No, I can't. But, you know, if I say, you know, let's say that's 1, say that's 2, 3, maybe like 3.5 of those, right? So the question I have to ask you is, okay, since I know 1080p pixels isn't in that monitor, why would I send a full 1080 resolution to it? You obviously can't draw it. So why would you do that? All it does is eat up your network resources. So now I could actually back this up with some numbers. So sorry, I do use dual monitor, which kind of throws me off a little bit on these statistics, but I'll show you guys a real life demo. Settings, statistics, overall. Now I could go to video and we can actually look right here. So right now I'm sending 180p. I'm receiving 360p. Now if I was to do simple things like drag your window size down to the smallest size, it's now 180, right? Because it's smart enough to know that there's no, I don't care how much pixels you've done to this, I can't draw more than roughly 180, right? Now I'll throw it a different direction. I'll actually get you guys nice and large here. And I'll full screen on the other screen, and now you see it's up to 720p, right? Real life demo, basically what we did is we adaptively changed the resolution on you in meeting real time to actually show, to pretty much play nice with your network bandwidth, right? Something Microsoft doesn't do. So now I could come to overall and say, okay, now I'm doing 2 megabit per second versus, you know, let's shrink those video images down again. That drops, and now 701 kilobit per second. So I'm now actually conscious of your network. Oh, look at this, 90 kilobits per second. I'm now actively conscious of your network and able to play nice with it instead of, well, screwing you over in a sense, right? That's something no other company out there can do.
Is there anybody else, any other video conferencing providers that have some element of adaptive video layering technology?
Yeah, so there definitely are, right? So part of what I agree and disagree with you with is we're not, so in that example, what you can kind of get out of it is because of how the bit rate changes, you know that I'm not sending all 4 streams at the exact same time.
Right.
I'm only sending the stream that needs to be sent at that moment.
Got it.
Other companies out there are doing what you're talking about, where they're sending multiple streams at the same time. They call it multi-streaming. Creative, I know. And basically, they end up using more network bandwidth because they're sending multiple streams at the same time. So how does that help? What are you really doing to us? We actually will differentiate, you know, what the bandwidth we use and everything like that based on your resolution and really what your network is capable of.
So we're the only ones that do this currently. Is this something that, I mean, Eric talks a lot about, you know, we have to be quick and, you know, speed is our weapon. Is this something that other companies can develop and will go to market with where we won't be able to differentiate in this regard?
Yeah, I mean, we're just the first, right?
Yeah.
Because we have the smartest guys working on it. I do truly think that we do have the smartest guys working on this. And I completely agree with that sentiment, right? I think that other companies are going to catch up at some point. It's just a matter of when. Speed is our, or time is our enemy. You know, speed is our friend. You know, we have to get this out. We have to make sure customers know it, they like it, they're on board with it. You know, that's one aspect of why we work so well. The other aspects, you know, so on the technical side with your IT guys, they're going to love that the most. On the user end side, they're just going to say, this is the easiest solution I've ever used. It just works, blah, 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 blah. And then that's your foot in the door, right? So it just depends on who you're talking to at that moment. But yeah, we're not special. We just came out with it first, and we just, because we have the smartest guys. So in that regards, we are special.
So on that note, guys, it would behoove us to know that kind of getting in the weeds with this adaptive video layering talk is not something that's going to happen with us on a day-to-day basis, right? If we get somebody who's interested enough, at least from the BDR side, right? Somebody who's interested enough to have this conversation, by God, book a meeting.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what our goal is to break down the doors, right? And to formulate relationships. So anybody who wants to talk about anything like this, I would even just stop that conversation and be like, we have some really exciting stuff to share with you, but it's a lot easier for me to show you rather than tell you over the phone. So what times are you available in the coming week?
Bennett, did you have a question?
I just had a statement regarding that, just because I've had people come back to me saying, yeah, I've used WebEx, I've used GoToMeeting, and they're all pretty much the same thing, and they're on the IT team. So I came back and said,
Mr. Customer, did you just say to me
right,
they're all the same? Of course they are, because we're the only ones that have actually, successfully implemented an adaptive video layer technology. So of course you're experiencing the same thing, because what I said to you before was 20 years ago, when Tamberg came to the market and developed something for on-network, and you're naming all these cloud solutions that aren't working for you, of course you're going to say they work exactly the same. We work differently because we've actually designed around it. Sorry, I had it.
You're fine. I mean, that's just like from the BDR side, like that's when I've used this.
Yeah.
So I've said, like, it's not, obviously video is video, but we separate ourselves from the technical side.
Yes.
And if they're IT, I'm like, I'd love to have, one of our engineers talk to you, one of our sales engineers, who can explain why we're different. And, that's worked also.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely one of those things where I like to overteach people, because I know you're going to forget 90% of this. So as long as you can maintain 10% and that's all you remember on the call, I'm happy. So
I know Isaac uses this stuff a lot. And so Isaac's my mentor, and he's talked about this a lot. So I use it too from the IT side.
Good.
Mike, can you, sorry, go ahead. Can you touch on, so I was instructed and I was told recently that the Zoom engine, what makes it the Zoom engine is advanced video coding, so AVC, SVC, and H.264. So I looked into like the 263, 262, 264, and was kind of in the weeds in my own head. Can you describe what that Zoom engine is, the AVC, SVC, and H.264?
Yeah, it's the best way to think about it is, all right, we're going to take this to a transportation model. All right, so right now you're in that office right now, and what we're going to do is, you as a person, you're in human form, right? What we're going to do is we have to figure a way to transport you, which would be like the AVC or SVC codec. The SVC, I always get them confused, so I'm not going to comment on them, but I know we use the one opposite of what the industry standard is, right? But in order to get you from there to here, I have to encode you in some format like AVC or SVC that actually transports you from one place to another. But then I'm going to uncode it so I can put you back into human form. All right. So you're in a car, that's your AVC packet, transports you over. And then once you're decoded from that AVC packet, you come inside, you're in human form. We call that H.264, human H, right? So really, H.264, that's pretty much what the entire industry uses. We just kind of change things around a little bit for the transport mode from one spot to the other. That's all.
Okay.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. What was the other thing that I was going to say? Yeah, so one of the other things, so when BDR, so one of the things that's, depending on the type of person you're going to be getting to, there's obviously going to be the person that's going to say, well, we don't want to do that, we don't want to do that, we don't want to do that, right? So before, what we were saying is, yeah, hey, you know what? Not only can we, not only are we better than SkypeForBusiness, but also keep in mind, you can also say, hey, we integrate with SkypeForBusiness, all right? A little statistic on that fact. Every customer that has been die hard going down the road with SkypeForBusiness for me and the integration into Zoom has switched over to Zoom. I actually asked the support engineering team recently, what is the max concurrent ports that we've used for Skype for Business integration. And that means at any one time, how many people are dialed in using Skype for Business in total. I forget what the number is for just Zoom meetings, but for Skype for Business is about 54. 54 ports. So at any one time, 54 people are connected into Zoom via Skype for Business. That was a max ever. Ever. So don't be afraid to say, hey, you know what, we can integrate with your solution. This may be something where we can actually say like, oh, well, you know, if there's a company you're looking to communicate with, they run Skype for Business, they can dial into this, or if you use it, you can dial into this and then actually use it for your video conferencing solution, right? Because we know Skype for Business doesn't work well as a conferencing solution. So let's bring them down that path and then just let your sales guy, you know, knock it out of the park by switching them over to Zoom at the end of the day, right? We just need to get them hooked. That's all.
Yeah. And another thing I'd like to hear you talk about, Mike, is just the Skype for Business integration being that checkbox, right? It's something that they need to hear us say that is possible, right? Because at the end of the day, like as you mentioned, 54 total ports ever having been used at one time tells you that, yes, we've enabled this integration, but are people using it? No. What is the reason for that? They end up determining after having tested us out that we just work better, so why not just use Zoom, right? But in the procurement process, right, when somebody says that we're a pure Microsoft shop, right, we use Skype for Business, we might look at you for video conferencing, but we need to know that you're going to integrate with what we're currently doing. Once we check that box, right, is like, yes, we can integrate with Skype for Business, and then they end up firing up some Zoom meetings and they go, oh, this is amazing, why don't we just use Zoom meetings? That's why there's only ever been 54 ports used at one time, because that integration with Skype for Business, yes, it works. Is it a little clunky? Sure, maybe, but once they start having some Zoom meetings, they realize, why would we even use that integration? It's stupid, just have a Zoom meeting. Close?
100% on par.
Nailed it?
Nailed it.
Damn, I got a nailed it out of Mike Johnsen.
You're absolutely right. I mean, at the end of the day, you guys are just looking to get your foot in the door. If that's by saying, hey, we can integrate with your solution, take it down that path. I am 100% okay with you guys doing that, because at the end of the day, we will convert that over to something different.
Yeah. Cool. What about the guy who, maybe we get the guy on the line who, it was his responsibility to get a collaboration solution in place, and he's the one who made the decision, and maybe he's the guy who, got the company all the way on O365, and, he's responsible for the organization using Skype for Business, but we're presenting an alternative. How is it that we're going to want to approach that guy?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to be different, so you just got to play around with it. Ask him a bunch of questions, see where you can fall in. I think if I was in your shoes, I think the first thing I would actually do is ask him why they want O365, right? A lot of people don't go to O365 because they want to use Skype for Business. They do it because of the email. They do it because of the Microsoft apps. They don't do it for Skype for Business. So you can kind of say like, hey, I understand that comes with it, was this an objective of yours to actually be using O365, or is this something you're using because it came with O365? And again, go down that path. How is it working out for you? Are there any limitations that you can't overcome? How is the support team from Microsoft, right? Don't forget, sell holistically too. There's still a before, a during, and an after the sales cycle, right? Zoom, we are there through and through with you. A lot of these guys from Microsoft side, as soon as they sell it, they're out of there. So, and then when you open up a support ticket, that person's like, it's not helpful whatsoever, right? So you can come in and say like, hey, tell me about a time that, you had a problem with Skype for Business. And what was the support experience like? How did you get through that? You know, what is it like? Because now you could throw in there, well, our support team is 100% US based. Well, I don't think it's 100%. I think we have people in Malaysia now. But anyway, you know, a good portion of our people are actually in the Americas. Like Kansas City is our biggest hub spot for support right now, right? Which means you get someone in America that knows what they're doing, that can talk to you through it in your time zone with an American name, blah, 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 down that whole road, right? And we're going to be there for you. We want, you know, we're not here for the sales cycle. We're here for you after the sales cycle as well, because, you know, even throw our company slogan out, right? We want to deliver happiness. We want to make sure you're happy before, during, and after the sales cycle, especially after the sales cycle. We're going to be there for you.
Yeah. 24/7, they can go on our website and chat with the live support agent and or call in.
Yeah, you got it.
If necessary, jump in a Zoom meeting with one of our technical support engineers.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's huge to.
It is huge.
Yeah.
What is the instance, MJ, tell me, where I wouldn't want to call somebody's baby ugly?
Yeah, so that's one of those situations where, you know, definitely don't say like, you know, if this guy is hardcore over Skype for Business, and, you know, like we were saying before, when there were, you know, hey, we can integrate with Skype for Business, that's the route you go, right? Because the last thing you want to do is, like, if this guy is hardcore Skype for Business, don't say, well, Skype sucks, right? Because all you've done is create controversy with him. It's not going to work out well. The best thing you could do in that situation is be like, yes, actually, I do agree with you. Skype for Business is a great solution. I just feel like I have something better that you may actually benefit from, and I'd love to give you the opportunity to actually talk to you about it.
Yeah,
Right?
so you might even want to, like, to your point, you might even want to go as far as to compliment that guy or congratulate that guy. Like,
Yeah.
awesome. 0365 is probably banging on all different types of cylinders for you. That's a fantastic solution. And even Skype for Business, you know, like for IM and presence and for a chat client, like, it's going to work out great. But there may be those holes, right, where maybe you need to have a large meeting, or you want to be able to see lots of people all at once, or you want to bridge in your room systems to a video conference. Those are gaps that we can help fill, right? So congratulations on getting all of that off the ground. If there are any challenges that you're not currently able to overcome, that's where we can come in and help.
And don't be afraid to go after Mac either. You know, we haven't brought that up just quite yet, but, you know, it's always good to ask, like, hey, how many Mac users do you have on at your office? How many of your execs are using PZ versus Mac? Right? That's a great one, because, you know, at the end of the day, we can easily come in there and say, hey, Skype for Business does not run well on Mac. We all know that. It's no secret. But at the end of the day, Zoom runs very efficiently on Mac, almost better than it does PC. And if your executives are using that solution, they're going to want something that works. And you're going to pick your execs over your end users any day of the week.
Yep. Cool. I love it. We got 10 minutes left. Do you guys have other questions, comments, concerns for Mr. MJ?
Oh.
Radio silence? It looks like we might be giving you a couple minutes back.
I got it.
All right,
I'll shoot it. All right, MJ, just from a technical standpoint, and it's not going to help me to get deep in the weeds in it, but from a technical standpoint for yourself, what does, you know, what's helpful to sell Zoom as opposed to Microsoft for Business? I mean, what's your silver bullet, so to speak, when speaking about our solution in comparison to Skype for Business?
You know, I mean, you could say there are some silver bullets. Like, a lot of times if you get someone in HR, you just say, how does it work communicating with people outside your organization? Remember what I said before, Skype for Business, besides having the name of Skype, that's the only thing it shares, right? So a lot of people think, oh, Skype for Business is great. Now I can talk to my other users on Skype. They don't talk to each other. Skype and Skype for Business do not communicate with each other, right? So if you get someone that's external facing, obviously go to the external route. If you get someone in networking, say like, hey, how does it run on your network? You know, to me, if I was a technical guy and I was talking to a technical guy on the phone, I would actually say, so how are you guys doing DSCP markings for Mac and PC on Skype for Business? And they would just not answer me, right? So DSCP markings is a little bit of how you control what happens on your network. You still need that stuff. So when you kind of say something like that, especially coming from me, that kind of gets them to be like, oh, geez, you know, they haven't even come up with a solution for that. What are you guys doing? You know, we have an answer for that. I mean, that's what you do, you know, to get that user meeting. Like, yeah, we have an answer for that, right? We're the only ones in the market that have figured out an answer for it too. I think that's pretty convincing, right? So, yeah, HR or anyone that's external facing, how do you communicate with people outside your organization? Also, that's the other thing, conference bridging. So Skype for Business is actually, a lot of times people actually think Skype for Business is conference audio only bridging. They actually don't even know that there's a video component for Skype for Business. Yeah.
Is it because people don't use it because it sucks?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, I honestly don't know. And, you know, I've seen some of Skype stuff and it's very poor. Their web-based application is actually extremely poor. The audio on the web-based application is very metallic. You know, they compress it way too much. And then you're talking and it's not as easy to understand this person. So while it's easier for us to understand each other, like to them on their platform, it's not, you know? So there's just a lot of little like glitches in there. And honestly, you could even end the meeting of saying like, hey, you know, why don't you just try out the product, right? You know, the worst thing I've done for you is educated you on a new product, and there's no harm in ever being overeducated.
I love it. Cool.
I like that last point. The worst thing is that I've educated you on a new product.
Yeah.
Or new technology. I like that.
You know,
That's
because what's the worst that could happen to them, right? They go up to an executive. Say you got the director of IT. He goes up to his boss, and one day his boss goes, "Hey, do you know the Zoom platform?" Because his boss heard of it, and now his boss is really interested. And now he has to sit there like an idiot and say, "No, I don't know anything about it."
They've been reaching out to me, but I've been ignoring them.
Yeah. Right. At the end of the day, you know, if they talk to you about it, at least now you can tell them like, well, at least you have an educated decision on what to say to your boss.
Yeah.
This way you don't sound like an idiot. Like, it's not bad.
I really like that. I'm glad this is recorded. I think I'm going to use that, right? Like at the very least, wouldn't you want to see what's out there so that down the road when your boss asks you, hey, what about these Zoom guys? You'll know what to tell them.
Yeah. So you can make an educated decision. I like that bit. That's helpful.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And going over it, you know, even use our Gartner Magic Quadrant to that benefit, right? We're playing there with Microsoft and Cisco. Your boss is going to ask about this at some point.
Yep.
Might as well educate yourself on it.
Yep. Cool.
Thank you, man.
Anybody else? Last questions for MJ? Look at that. We got you 5 minutes back, dude.
Yeah, and I came in late for you guys, so sorry about that. It's been a hassle getting this scheduled.
Well, clearly we were really busy when you showed up here, so.
Yeah. Turn the page.
MJ, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you, man. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Later.
Peace.